And welcome, extra welcome to everybody out there in video game land. This is the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Reeves. And obviously, this is the show where we inform you about games. The games worth playing. And boy, are they coming out starting this week, I want to say. Joined with me today, Alex Stadnick.
Hello, friends. You know it's going to be a special day when we get an extra helping of welcome.
That's right. Kimberly Wallace.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey. And Marcus Stewart. How's it going?
Hey, I'm also here.
That's right. That extra welcome is for you, by the way. Don't tell everybody else.
Oh, thank you.
All right. We've got a big show. Video games are coming out. I don't know if you guys are aware, but 'tis the season and all that. And they're starting to roll out. I would say Watch Dogs is kind of a big marker. And then in a couple weeks, maybe there's another game or two coming out. I haven't checked the content calendar. I'm not that concerned. I'm going to take my time with Watch Dogs. So we're going to talk all about that. Today, we have a couple other games to talk about. Ghostrunner, Little Hope, I believe is the name of the game from, what's the name of that studio, Kim?
Supermassive Games.
Right, that's right.
Until Dawn.
Guys, Until Dawn. Basically the Until Dawn people. That's what And then it might sound like a simple show, but we're going to do an extra large community email section because we love you and we want to give you what you like.
Amen.
And also it's easy. Should we kick this off, guys? Start with our playlist?
Yes, we shall.
Do it.
All right, Marcus. I already know what you're playing because I looked at the review, but what have you been playing?
It is pretty much this past week almost been exclusively Watch Dogs Legion.
What's the story of Watch Dogs Legion? It was on our cover, so obviously it's a good game, right?
Yes, Watch Dogs Legion is a very good game that I've had a lot of fun with this past week. So the premise of the game is that, third game in the Watch Dogs series, instead of controlling one super hacker, you get an entire city filled with potential heroes. And it is a really cool idea that is almost overwhelming at times. So you're dropped down to the city. So basically the story is that DedSec, who has been the hacker, the kind of hacktivists from the first two games, they, at least in the city of London, they are framed for a big terrorist attack by a kind of evil hacker organization backed by some other rogue companies. And basically the group gets kind of purged like Order 66 style. And that kind of allows London to get taken over by this super high-tech mercenary company who just kind of establishes just an authoritarian police state. And nobody's really happy about it. And it's up to you to kind of pick up the remnants of DedSec and try to rebuild yourselves from the ground up by going around and literally just picking up anyone you see. So there's no NPCs in this game whatsoever. Literally every character in the street is playable, which is amazing and also intimidating because you start scanning every phone and you see what skills they all bring. Some of them are spies and can summon like spy cars and spy gadgets. Others are investors and can get you more money for your group. Some of them are just more zany.
The spy gadget people need better phones. If you're just hacking into everybody's phone, and like, shouldn't the spy master not be like have emails on his phone saying like, "Hey, James Bond,
want to do some spy trade Parliament today?" Yeah.
Shouldn't they be a little more secretive, harder to find?
Well, maybe like old school spies, but near future spies, they hide in plain sight, you see. And because, if you see that they're a spy, you're not going to believe they're a spy. You're like, this guy thinks he's a spy. He probably isn't.
I love this idea. It's such a cool idea for a game, and I want to know how it works. But right off the bat, like, couldn't you just go find like the best character right away and then just start using them?
It's not that easy because it takes a while to play before you kind of realize how the different boroughs come into play. So every borough has its own kind of culture. And then the more you kind of explore and feel around, you can kind of get a feel for what places you're more likely to find certain types of people in certain professions. So like if you want to spy, you're probably going to want to hang around government buildings or like the MI6 building. But they're also not like, at least spies in particular, they're not like everywhere. They're kind of hard to find for the most part. So you do have to keep an eye out. The game does give you some pretty good people depending on what missions you complete. They'll just throw a high level person onto your team. But for the most part, you just kind of keep your eye out and your ear to the ground. There's tools you can unlock that allow you to profile people because everyone has a schedule and you get like a full list of like, this is where they were at this time, this is where they're going, and you can kind of track people like that.
So you get to be a stalker.
Pretty much. You're a stalker slash, well, I guess not kidnapper because you're convincing these people.
It's kind of creepy. I have a really important question for you, Marcus.
Yes.
If I go into this and decide maybe to recruit all grannies and have the Golden Girls, am I going to lose this game? Like, is that like at my disadvantage?
That was my question. Yeah.
It depends because like, so for like, let's say you want all grannies. All the grannies aren't the same. The grannies will all have different skills. So like maybe this granny is really good at hacking. She's can hack things faster. Maybe this granny has a car, so they're the getaway granny. Maybe this granny comes with
granny!
I met a granny who was a dominatrix who was also like a weapons dealer, so she came with like some high-powered weapons.
I did not know the conversation was going to go this way, but freaking love it's Blanche. You're right, Reeves. It's Blanche.
Yeah.
Blanche Devereaux.
So like ability.
You know her last name. That's amazing.
Yeah, I didn't know her last name either, so that's pretty good. But yeah, so like abilities can go to any kind of, I guess, archetype or any type of person. And what I love about the game is that even though it rewards you for maybe trying to use a type of person that might be suited for a situation, it's also extremely flexible, and you could get through most things with anybody if you're good. And also the level design accommodates so many different approaches. So like one of my favorite tactics is like you can recruit enemies too. They're a little bit harder. You have to kind of do an extra mission because every person you recruit, you have to do a little mission for them to get them. Whereas people that don't like you, and you can tell if someone doesn't like Dead Tech Devil or thumbs down. So you'll know like, okay, I got to do an extra something to convince them that we're cool and then they'll join me. And that's for enemies is that when you get them, you get their uniforms. And that allows you to just stroll into restricted areas and be relatively safe. Like you still have to kind of keep away from people so they don't get a good look at you. But other than that, you can just walk past a bunch of stuff that would otherwise be pretty challenging to sneak by. But if you don't have a person like that, maybe you want to send a little spider drone to go ahead and depending on the objective, the spider drone could do everything for you and you never have to step foot in that place. Maybe you can get a flying drone, which some characters come with, but also there's drone kind of spawn stations all over the city, so you can call one yourself. And that was one of my favorite tactics was riding on top the big cargo drones and just bypassing a bunch of people and just like, I'm just going to land on this roof and then kind of sneak from above. The game gives you a bunch of tools to kind of tackle any situation with any type of person, but it does behoove you to keep in mind, like, this might be easier if I go with this kind of character, maybe.
It sounds super fun. Is there a limit to the number of characters you can recruit? Can you just recruit everybody in the city? Is that a viable option? Like, just everybody thinks like me now.
No, there is a limit. It's God, I was trying to count because I wasn't sure. It seems like so what it is that you have an active roster of roughly 12 to 14, and then you have a saved pool of recruits. So like once your active roster is full, you can still tag people in the street for later. And you can do that anytime, really. If you like see someone, but you don't have time to go do their mission, but you don't want to lose them, it'll save them, and then you can find them on the map at any time wherever they are.
This guy's worth it. I want to come back and get him.
Exactly. So like
that would be me.
Yeah, I saw you
would be tagging me and be like, I got to come get this guy.
Well, okay. Marcus, I read your review. You played with permadeath on, right? And that's optional.
Yeah, it tells you in the beginning, like, hey, you can play on or off. I recommend playing with it on because you have the freedom to switch it off later. But if you start with it off, you can't change it to on for some reason. So I think honestly, like if you want to, it's weird.
I made that mistake.
I guess I could see maybe you're more likely to leave it off than to turn it on and turn it off. But I think everyone should just start with permadeath just to see how they like it. I loved it. I think it raises the stakes in a fun way. And I don't think the game is too difficult where like I lost a lot of good agents, but half the time it was because I was stupid and just made bad choices. But I think it kind of made me grow attached to my characters. Like I've had some people in my party that were there from the beginning or towards the beginning, and you do form something of a bond with them, either because they're like really good skill wise or because their personality is so weird. And just like I have like a cyber beekeeper in my group with this like hilariously dark voice, and he's like super serious, but he's wearing this colorful beekeeper outfit and he just throws robot bees at people. And I'll be really sad if he ever dies. But
That sounds awesome.
The hacking stuff is still really fun. I think the stealth is fantastic just in terms of how it combines all of your abilities plus the multi-layered approach to level design on top of the way you can hack into a camera, then hack into this drone, then hack into this puzzle. And the way it kind of uses all of its gadgets is really well done, kind of forcing you to use everything in your environment to get past what's often just a ton of guards and drones that occupy these areas. But you never really feel overwhelmed. Like once you get your bearings and kind of figure out how you want to go about a place, you feel pretty confident. And if you ever mess up, it's so forgiving in terms of like you can easily just reset or find another route and start again.
So I should back up. Were you a fan of the first 2 Watch Dogs, Marcus?
I thought the first one was interesting. It reminded me of the first Assassin's Creed, where it had a lot of hype and then came out and was just kind of okay. But I thought the foundation was there. And then the second
It
game,
sounds like you're dodging the question, Marcus. Were you a fan or not?
It's okay.
Okay.
I don't like. I think I like the game more than the story. We'll say I wasn't a fan of Aiden Pierce or his whole thing.
Was.
Yeah. Well,
Some
apparently
people
everyone
they're
wants
bringing
to bring him back. Yeah.
I don't know why he's coming back.
The Pearsonites, the fans, they asked for it. That's what they call themselves. And then Watch Dogs 2 I never finished, but from what I played of it, I enjoyed it immensely more than the first game, and a lot of it had to do with just the much more enjoyable vibe and the characters. So yeah, having said that, I will say this is my favorite of the bunch.
Cool.
I had the most fun from a pure gameplay perspective. I think that the systems all work together really well, bar the inability to just kick people out your group. I think the city is gorgeous. It's fun to just drive around and look at London. It's like a mix of beautiful and also just oppressing. There's just drones everywhere. And yeah,
that's the case in London itself too, right? The actual city of London.
They took a research trip beforehand.
I haven't been to London.
I haven't been in years.
I had a hard time staying on the right side of the road, on like the actual right side of the road. Yeah. Because I was like, oh yeah, everything's opposite here. That's right. Yep. And I got into a lot of car accidents.
I killed so many people.
Right.
And I had the audacity as a true American to be upset at them because I was like, you're driving on the wrong side of the road, not me. Exactly. I need to talk to someone about that.
God. Alex, can I ask
it sounds like go ahead.
Oh, Alex, I wanted to ask you real quick because you've been playing it too. Do you have a favorite party member? Or who's the weirdest person in your party?
So I got a spy who has a very thick, like Hungarian accent or something like that. And he's just like, I'm going through some dire stuff like with the Kellys, like, and it's just that's part of what I was going to say about this game is it's just kind of hilarious sometimes how the VO kind of matches some of the characters, kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love, and I was talking to new hire Alex Van Aken before this. I didn't really like this game when I started it. I was like kind of I hadn't played the first 2 games. I wasn't a fan of the series, and it just felt like there was something off. But once I kind of got into the systems and the recruitment, like you talked about, it clicked, and I'm having a really good time with that. And I think I think I like the spy so much because it kind of feels like I'm playing a Splinter Cell game because I'm I'm going in, I'm trying to, and I really like that the game, like at the start says DedSec agents use their weapons last, as a last resort. I've been trying to go in, I've been trying to use takedowns. And because like Marcus said, that stealth is not oppressive and it's pretty forgiving. I like that kind of experience, and I've kind of found my groove in it. So I like going in, using my spider bot, using like I really love his wristwatch gadget that disables enemy weapons. So it's like it feels like Splinter Cell Light, and I'm happy I found that because I want to keep experiencing that version of the game. You know what I mean?
For sure.
No joke though, but like how long until they actually add Sam Fisher to this game? Ubisoft seems to like add Sam Fisher to like every game they make. So you want to put a number on it? Like how many weeks?
I bet he's already in it. I bet he's like one of the random NPCs that like you have to go find.
Oh, that would
Maybe
be
it's-
amazing.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, someone will spot him. And
That's
lead
how you
to
would
your
do
story.
that.
Yeah.
That's how
Yeah.
you do that, right?
Or it
If
could be
he's
his
not in the
cousin or
game,
something. Yeah.
I think he'll be in the game within a year.
Yeah.
Or
I think
he'll
it's
be, or he'll be in Smash Brothers. Because why not?
sure. Can you imagine seeing the letter float down and just hearing that? Like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. It's great. We don't need Sora or Goku or anything like that. Just say
Hey, why
Ubisoft's like, wait, did we say that was okay? I can't remember. They wouldn't even know. Like, they don't even know who they've licensed them out to at this point.
not?
Probably start appearing on Pepsi cans pretty soon.
just make him free use at this point. Who cares?
Yeah.
I could paint Sam Fisher on the side of my like laundry business truck or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
For public use, him and Sherlock Holmes.
Finally, together.
Sounds like the game is cool, Marcus. Sounds like gameplay is really neat, and the way you can interact with missions is cool, that's all awesome. I'm excited to check this game out. One question I had since they announced it was, given the fact that your protagonist can be like anybody in a city, how do they manage a narrative through all that?
So it's pretty much just told, like, if there's a cutscene, it's whatever character you're currently equipped. It's kind of handling the protagonist duty, so to speak, in that scene. Which, if you're switching characters relatively frequently, I think it kind of creates a better sense of like this is a group working together and not just one person doing everything. So, and plus the supporting cast, I think, is really well. I think the voice acting is great. I love Bagley, your kind of snarky AI. He's actually genuinely pretty funny. And I think that the story in general is pretty good. That takes a lot of twists and turns. I think the villains are fantastic and genuinely very dislikable. And the story missions attached to them are really cool. There's one in particular I called in my review where you explore this house. I'm not spoiling, but you deal with a woman who's obsessed with uploading people's minds to like the digital ether. And that whole story takes a surprisingly dark and sad turn. So the story goes a lot of fun places, but I think it manages to tell an engaging story without having just a fully fleshed out protagonist, which in itself is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that is impressive. Sounds cool. Reviews up on the site, correct?
Yep, I gave it a 9 out of 10. And I do want to call out real quick. So I reviewed this on my Xbox One X and had minimal problems with it. Because I heard this morning, after my review went live, that apparently that version of the game has been crashing or overheating other reviewers' Xbox One X's, and that Ubisoft was going around letting people know that. So maybe if we're going to buy that version of the game, maybe wait for a patch. Again, I had one freeze like midway through, but it was a small freeze. Like I didn't get the specific bug that everyone else is getting. It's kind of in the first third of the game from what I understand. So that's why it's not reflected in my review. I can't write about something I didn't experience.
Cool. Game sounds fun. Thanks for sharing that, Marcus. Kim, I believe you've been playing a game called The Dark Pictures Anthology's Little Hope. Little Hope rolls right off the tongue.
So if you guys watched the podcast last week, I like my scary games. You also know that Until Dawn is one of my favorites. This is by Supermassive. They're creating an anthology, planning 5 games. I don't know if that's still going to be the case or when they're going to come out, considering just COVID and all these other development stuff. But they released Man of Medan last year, which I thought was just okay. It had a lot of technical issues. They fixed some of that now for Little Hope, which this is a completely standalone adventure. So if you didn't play Man of Medan, you can go right into this. The only thing that carries over is some of your dialogue with the curator who was in Man of Medan. But it's very, very, very small. So you could start here. This is new characters, new story, new setting, everything. So this one takes place in a town called Little Hope, where your bus crashes and you wake up and there's all this fog and you can't escape, kind of Silent Hill-ish for that. And every time you try to leave, the fog brings you back in. So there's something creepy going on. But then as you walk through the town, you find out that it's connected to the 17th century witch trials. So you get to pulled into the past and kind of with your doppelgangers. There's a lot going on here. So, who look just like you, who experienced, like I said, the paranoia and accusations of being accused of witchcraft. And through the game, you're trying to figure out, okay, how come these doppelgangers look like these people? And they also look like another family who inhabited the town from the 1970s who also had a tragic past there. So you're connecting all the dots. And I'll tell you, the story is great. Like, I was hooked on figuring out the connections and where everything is going. But that being said, it's not really, like, the setting is so much better than I feel like Man of Medan is setting everything up. These are the scariest creatures that I think Supermassive has ever created. Like, their monster design, just top notch here. But they still can't, like, capitalize it, because I was not scared once during this game, and anybody who's played a scary game with me knows I jump sometimes. I did not jump at all during the game, because the jump scares are just really predictable, and they're almost so over the top that they're laughable in a lot of instances. So I was a little bummed about that, and I'm also tell people, like, if you go into this, just know it's a very slow burn. It starts very slow. It's setting up a lot of this. You are walking down a street for this entire, like, game, basically going into a few locations here and there, very far and few. So there's not really much to do, but look at the clues and try to piece things together. Now, I played first solo, and then I played again with Jeff Cork co-op, because co-op was a big deal with Man of Medan. And I loved co-op in Man of Medan. I hated it in this game because it really does affect what scenes both of you see and how that story comes together. And I think you're cheating yourself out of the experience to not play it solo first. And also, I had a lot of crashes and technical issues with the co-op that I did not experience playing solo. So just to, like, kind of recap all that was going on there. But
you could always play co-op in the sense that you're just, like, playing together with a friend, passing the controller, or one person watching. Because, like, those games are so easy to, like, pick that response.
Yeah, they have that mode as well. But if you're going in to play co-op where you share the story, just know that I don't think it's as impactful that way. And I actually think you're going to get frustrated because you're going to miss out on really important elements for it.
So it sounds like you're liking it better than Man of Medan, maybe not quite as much as Until Dawn.
Correct. So, like I said, it is a step up from Man of Medan, but it still has its issues. And like I said, I'm glad I played it. I think I enjoyed the setting a lot more than Man of Medan. Man of Medan was just like a rich kids going for, like, a dive, into that, like, ghost ship, which was just not as exciting as, like, having little, like, trying to figure out what the hell's going on with these witch trials and how your characters are connected. And Will Poulter, who was in, like, Midsummer, Maze Runner, I forget, Detroit, like, a bunch of those, he plays one of the main characters, and he does a really good job. Like, he has to nail this, like, New England accent from that time period, and he gets it. So I thought that it was well acted. Like, it still has Supermassive's, like, really stiff, like, puppet like wax characters that, like, can't animate their faces that great.
Ooh, it sounds creepy.
But yeah, I mean, you have a creepy little girl following you the entire game, so you're like, what the hell's up with you, girl? But you make some interesting decisions on, like, who are you to blame for what happened with those witch trials, and whose fault do you think it is in the end? And then that really is the big choice that will impact some of your ending.
Okay.
What you get.
Well, sounds promising. Still not quite a hit like we wanted from Until Dawn, but this thing's supposed to be an anthology, so who knows how many more they're going to make.
We'll get a completely new setting and characters next time. So they did a lot here, so I'm like, what else are they going to mash together for the next one? I'm really interested to see what they do.
Have they already announced
like a weird
the
approach.
third one?
No.
Okay.
Usually they'll put, like, a trailer in this one. Now, I played it early. I played it on PS4, so if you guys are wondering where I experienced my co-op crashes, it was PS4. But they usually will, like, patch in later a trailer that teases where it's going. So my version, I don't know if a version that comes out on release will have that or not, or my version didn't anyways, because I was looking for it because I'm super curious. But
yeah,
sure. Reviews up or should be up on the site by the time
Yep.
you read it. I know you're kind of still working on it right now, but feel free to check that out.
Yeah, if you
I'm
like
curious.
their games,
I'm gonna read it.
If you like their games, it's worth checking out.
Cool. And then Kim, I believe you said you had an appointment to keep with like a ghost doctor or something, right?
Yeah, I go to my ghost doctor.
Yeah, something real spooky it sounded like. So good luck with that.
Thank you.
All right. Why don't you get out of here? And Blake, welcome to the show.
Ben, thank you so much. First time, long time. It's an honor to be here.
It's been the newest addition to the staff, not really, but one of, and newest host of the Game Informer show. It's glad to have you on the show finally.
Yeah, it's good to host finally. I've been
Yeah,
listening for
finally.
years, and I kept thinking to myself, I could do this better. And
I'm sure you could. I mean, it's not a high bar. Let's be honest.
Ben Hansen's throwing his computer against the wall right now.
Great. Well, you caught us in the middle of the playlist, so why don't you jump in and tell us what you've been playing?
Lately, I've been playing Ghostrunner, and I believe I will have impressions on the site soon. In lieu of an actual review, actually, we had to have a discussion among the staff about why we're not going to run a review. Unfortunately, I have been playing the console version of this game, which I take to be the worst possible way you could play this game. On PC, it looks incredible. I've watched a lot of gameplay of it, and I'm in awe of the speed and the verticality and the range of movement you have. But without a gaming PC, I had to settle for my base Xbox, where almost all of that is non-existent, which is quite upsetting. So I have a impressions piece that's going to go up that talks about my experience playing it. You know, the way playing on control kind of hinders what that game is trying to do, on top of a lot of technical issues. And why we're not doing a scored review, because I just don't have access to the optimal way to play it. So that's all I've been mainly playing, and unfortunately banging my head against it. It felt like it was a rough experience yesterday. It was, dare I say, the most angry I've ever been at a video game.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's
Wow,
I'm not
really?
like
That's
I'm not
crazy
like
to
a
me.
rage gamer at all. I don't like throw controllers or cuss or yell, but like the game, look, people are going to come at me for this. I'm not the best gamer in the world, okay? So already working with that deficit and then playing this game with, you know, like really unstable frame rate and just not being able to meet the game, what the game was demanding of me, was an immensely frustrating experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
So just to back up just a little bit, this game, Ghostrunner, it's sci-fi.
Oh, yeah.
Would you say cyberpunky type game?
Definitely.
It looks to me, it looks like Mirror's Edge if Mirror's Edge was dark.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
like
if that's a fair example or not.
I think it is. I'm sorry, I didn't set it up well. It's like a first-person platformer.
It's not an issue. You were just worried about being host.
Yeah, that's right. It's like a first-person platformer set in a cyberpunk city. It, especially on PC, I hate to keep going back to that. It looks beautiful. Its world and storytelling are pretty run-of-the-mill standard stuff. Nothing really stands out there. But the like hook of it is it's kind of like Mirror's Edge meets Hotline Miami. So death is always one hit away for you and enemies. So it's a lot of, you know, running into a room, immediately dying, and then instantly starting over and trying to figure out the room, learn the rules of the room, combining the platforming around the levels and wall runs with the combat. It looks great. It's very stylish. The world is super cool. Outside of the story, just not doing anything for me. I was quite a big fan of the presentation overall.
And so between swears and technical problems, do you feel like you got a sense for like, hey, this gameplay could be pretty fun if I was able to play it consistently?
For sure, yeah. When it clicked for me a couple times when I was playing it, like it was a blast. And a buddy of mine was streaming it today, and I popped in there for a few minutes watching him play on PC, and it was like a different game. Like I want to play this game a lot. Like I am very excited for it. I just unfortunately had what I assume is the worst experience possible playing it. I don't think like this game was necessarily designed with console in mind, and I know a lot of people are having issues with the console overall. The developer, which is like a small Polish developer, has been just like constantly replying to people on Twitter complaining about PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, base consoles, trying to get patches out there. They delayed the Switch port of the game. I don't think that made it out publicly until yesterday, the release day of the game, but I went back and checked some of the emails, and they had at least told press that a little while back. I think that's pushed back only a month or so, but yeah, overall, the console experience on that is pretty messy, which really sucks, because I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on in that game.
Yeah, like I played it on
bummer.
Steam and thought it was awesome. Like the Steam Festival where it was free, like I ran through that demo. I have a pretty good gaming laptop, and I thought it was pretty sick.
Yeah,
and how much of a better gamer are you than Blake as well, Marcus?
That's important to know.
How tall are you? Maybe you could do like
I'm about
the height very important for
7'4".
7'4". Jesus Christ! Well, you're better than me. So this game, that just means that this game just doesn't run very well.
I was watching like last night after I got mad at the game and turned it off. I was watching some like PC videos of it and like getting actually jealous that wasn't the game. I've never like played a game I wanted to enjoy so much, but hated my experience with so much.
Just put your hand against the screen and rubbed it longly.
Yeah, longly. Playing
someday will be
bad
mine.
Music in the background as I think about how much fun I could have in Ghostrunner.
Oh man!
Yeah, I played it for a preview a few months back, and I think that's up on the site. And I had a good time with it, and it definitely looks really good. So if you got an itch for something Mirror's Edgy, and you kind of like that darker cyberpunky tone, like definitely looks like worth checking out. If you have a good PC or I don't know, are willing to put up with technical snafus on a console, which hopefully those will be fixed soon. I don't know. Well, cool. Thanks, Blake. Your thing will be up on the site soon if it's not up already. Did you say you were playing anything else?
Call of Duty every day. I'm never not playing. Still enjoying. I finally got around to playing the zombie battle royale mode that I hadn't played last week. And I agree with Alex and maybe like it more than Alex. I don't know. I think it's the best Warzone has maybe ever been. It is so fun.
Wait, how?
Hold on. Let me see your hands. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a controller in your hands and you were like trying to sneakily play while doing the podcast.
I would love to be playing right now.
He's taking a break.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Like the way they condense the map, the zone is like very small. It starts with a zone about as small as the last zone in a normal Warzone match. And then like people, because it's so condensed, people are dropping so quickly. And then the map is overrun with zombies. Like it is way more, I guess, arcade. I don't want to say arcadey. I guess hectic or frenetic than normal Warzone, which has a lot of planning and methodology. This is just like drop in and kill the hell out of everything. And it rules. I am absolutely smitten with this. Jump scares still trash. I wish they'd take those out of the game though.
See, I still have not hit one of those jump scares in the from the boxes.
There's a jump scare in Warzone.
Quick update on this. I believe they are tied to the Halloween event specific boxes you find in areas. There's like one in each area.
Got it.
That I believe is what they're tied to. So if you're not finding those, then I don't think they're going to just randomly pop up if you're opening a box here or there.
For sure.
But they still suck. They are terrible. I do like when my friends get them and I hear them gasp over the microphone. That's very good. And I like that. But I don't like it when I get them and I get scared.
Reasonably so.
Royale. Super good. That's all I've been
sorry.
playing.
What is that exactly? Just real quick. I'm just trying to wrap my mind around a jump scare.
Yeah, so in the Halloween event, they have these new jump scares. If you open like a loot box, and I believe, I'm like almost certain they're the Halloween specific ones because there's loot boxes you can find throughout the levels that give you like spray paint things or emotes or whatever. I don't know. Mm-hmm. Every now and then you open one and a really terrible Photoshop of like a ghost face will pop on screen and then some ghastly, horrible sound, but they have it up in the sound mix 2 to 3 times louder than anything else in the game.
Oh,
and it is the worst.
They basically turned loot boxes into Jack in the Boxes.
Yeah,
that's right.
Like pretty much.
Yeah, that's that's good stuff right there.
So that's you've been playing that as well, Alex, or is there anything else on your plate?
I've dabbled. We talked about it a couple weeks ago, but the one thing that I really want to talk about is Astro's Playroom, the PlayStation 5 tie-in game. And I'm going to be honest, coming into this, I was lukewarm. I thought, I heard tie-in game. I didn't think much of it. And I have been so happily surprised with my experience with it. I can only talk about the Cooling Springs level, but each level is based upon a section of the actual PlayStation. So like this one is it has fan architecture in it and whatnot. And to quote the illustrious Joe Juba, anyone who goes into this thinking it's just a tech demo for the controller needs to get that thought out of their head, because it is a platformer. It is like surprisingly so. It controls really well. It's simple. If you've played, Super Mario 64 or Ukulele or Banjo-Kazooie, you know what this is. But it handles well, and the integration with those triggers is, you have to experience it to fully appreciate it. But once I started to feel it and how it handles that feedback, I was hooked. And I don't know how I'm going to go back to some of these other controllers. I don't know how much I can say about the controller itself, but there are points in that level where you take over an emotion, you take over different kind of mech suits. It's like a jumping frog suit. And you use the motion controls of the controller and then the triggers. And, when you load up to spring and jump, you feel that feedback on the triggers. And I'm excited to go in depth more on that later, because it accentuates the experience in a way that I did not think it would. And I think the other part that is so enchanting to me about this is it is through and through a love letter to PlayStation's history, PlayStation franchises, even. And I don't want to say much more, but when you get the PS5, if you're lucky enough to get the PS5, boot it up and be sure to look for. There's little Astro bots that have cameras. Look for them, and they're scattered all across the levels. It is so cute and it's so fun, but it just feels really well thought through, and a really, really nice letter to people who love the history of this 20 years of PlayStation we're at now, something like that. So it looks gorgeous. It playing it in 4K, the fidelity of it is. It matches that cartoon aesthetic, but you can just tell there's a different level of sheen here. So I'm really taken with my experience with it. I really am excited to play more. That was just the Cooling Springs level, but I would really encourage people, when they crack open their PlayStation. I know Miles is calling people's name. I know Demon Souls, Bugsnax. I know people are going to be excited about a lot, but don't sleep on Astro's Playroom.
Really quick, you called it a tie-in
and
game?
just as a reminder, I think Blake's about to ask the same thing. It's the thing that comes packed in with the console.
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. It comes with every PS5. So you don't have to buy it. I didn't have to download it. I think that's standard across PlayStations, but I could be wrong. But especially as a free experience, you owe it to yourself, if you like PlayStation, to give this a try. I'm really, really taken with it.
And it's, if you like the PlayStation VR game, the Astro game, I love that thing. So I'm excited to dive in and see, because this one's not PlayStation VR. It's not a VR game, but it definitely is that same, platforming action game. So I'm excited to check that out. So
cool.
Great. Glad to know it's good.
Yeah.
I personally haven't had a ton of time for games this last week after Amnesia, but I've been playing a little bit of a little game called Super Mario Sunshine. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this little indie gem. It's a lot of fun. It's
everyone's favorite Mario.
It's kind of like an Astro type game. Is what I call it. Very similar. Okay. I think they cribbed off of that.
You have my attention. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. The one other thing I did get a chance to check out is there's a new Jackbox party pack out, Party Pack 7. And I didn't get a chance to play all the games, but I did play some of them with the fam last week, and we had a lot of fun with Champed Up, which is like their new drawing game where you get sent a message of like draw a champion of like the breakfast table or something, and you have to draw like a creature who will then fight in an arena, and you name them, and then it's kind of like TKO if you remember the Jackbox games, the t-shirt game, but this one you're drawing people who will fight each other, and then people vote on which competitor they want to win. I played with my 5-year-old niece and nephew, and they just had a blast with that. So it's really good for kids. And as an adult, I also had a good time. That wraps up our playlist. Should we go do some emails, guys?
I think we shall.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. Gang's all here. I'm here. Marcus, you're back.
Hey, I am
Blake,
back.
how's it going?
Great to be here. Thank you.
Great. Alex, I see you like put on a hat or something. Actually, you're looking a little bit
I did.
paler,
Yeah.
just a little different. Wait a minute. Hold on.
Hey,
Wait,
wait a
Paler.
minute.
What's
Paler.
your
Wait a
last
second.
name?
It's
What's
not
your last
static.
name?
It's Van Aken.
Who let him
Yeah, I
on the
knew
close
it.
set?
Wait, I thought you said, Alex, will you join me on the podcast? I said yes. So I'm here. Were you talking?
Oh my
This
gosh.
is awkward. This is awkward.
Just start all again. We're up to
What a
call
bunch
security.
of confusion here. We have two Alex. We have our newest hire, Alex Van Aken. How's it going?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
It feels like every week we're like, hey, come meet our new hire. Because it turns out we just hired a bunch of people.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's a joke that we should just keep doing every week. Like that's our new segment.
Budget might be weird, if we're going to continue to bring in new hire every week, but I'm down.
I'll just wear like a fake mustache and you just come up with a fake name. Yeah.
There you go.
I think that's true. I think also, we might be reaching the end of our new hires here. As a heads up, I think we're finally full staffed, which is great. So the Game Informer you love and know is now bigger and better and more staffier. we got some staff infection.
Oof.
We got to
Anyway,
that out.
this is the email section. Email section of the show. This is where people write in podcast@gameinformer.com. They send us questions, letters, words of wisdom, games. We love to review them all. Alex Van Aken, are you familiar with this section?
I am. I'm ready to answer questions and talk with the community.
Great. This first email here comes from Drew from Minneapolis. Says, "Who the hell is this Alex Van Aken guy? Can you tell us more about him?"
Well, sure.
Alex, who the hell do you think you are?
I'm a man that lives in just outside of Denver. I live in Boulder, Colorado. And for the past 5-6 years, I've been, I always called myself like an indie podcaster. Like I podcasted and I did video content, but I had a full-time job, right, in marketing. And, by evening I would come sit down at this desk and make stuff about games. And now I'm with Game Informer. I'm really excited. But yeah, it's good to be here. And I'm sure people will ask, so I will say my favorite games of all time. Here we go. World of Warcraft, Halo 2, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Pokemon Gold, and either Animal Crossing, Chaos Theory, or Splinter or Gears of War, one of those. But those are some of my favorite games.
What an interesting trilogy.
I know, right?
Are those your favorite games too, Static?
Yeah, those are the exact same games.
Oh,
Totally. Are you
Is
more
that the
fan of
only
Lord of
question they
Warcraft?
asked you during the interview?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think multiple times actually it like brought up and I was like, it was an interview, so I was like actually serious about it and like, well, here's how I differentiate from this Alex, and it was a thing.
Yeah. We asked him what his mom's name was. It was a
Perfect.
whole, it was a whole thing. Where was he born? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Well, Alex, great to have you on staff. What should we call you? Should we call you Alex?
You can call me Van Aken,
I think
Alex, whatever. You can call me whatever you want.
We're having plenty
Whatever
of meetings
we want.
trying to.
We talked about we're going to do a 1v1 in a game, I think. Me and
to
Alex,
see who gets the name. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our parents' given name here. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. We're
Why
having
not-
meetings.
Why not
It's
let
fine.
the community settle it? The community can write in podcastgameinformer.com, tell us what they want, and they will
Ben.
name you.
Ben,
They will change your legal name.
Ben, hi, Blake Hester, Game Informer here. Quick question.
Yeah, Blake.
When
Yes.
when
One
Ben
question, I'll allow
Hansen worked here, how did you all differentiate between yourselves?
Hansen, people called me Reeves all the time, which I was very annoyed with because I was Ben first, and then he showed up, and suddenly everybody was calling him Ben.
Do you remember when I was an intern? My intern group would call you Dr. Bobby.
I do remember that.
We still do amongst ourselves.
Who came up with the doctor part?
I thought that was on the plaque on your wall or something. You had something that said Bobby
No.
Reeves, and I think it says doctor in front of it.
Yeah, I guess I got to share the story now. So for my 5-year anniversary at so GameStop owns Game Informer, right? So my 5-year anniversary, GameStop corporate sends me a little 5-year anniversary present. It's like a 1 gig memory stick, which wasn't even impressive back then, but whatever. And then it's this sheet certificate which says, "Hey, congratulations on 5 years, Bobby S. Reeves." Like, what? Who is Bobby S? Like, just FYI, my middle name is not even begin with an S either. So 2 out of 3 names just totally botched.
Have you checked the
Can I-
corporate directory for Bobby S. Reeves?
There's some poor
No, I
sap
want to
in
believe that somewhere
accounting.
out there there's a.
Can I add something to this story really quick, Dr. Bobby Reeves? When
Yes, please.
the-
Doctor was not on the plaque, so I don't know how that got added, but I
who knows? We went right before I started at Game Informer, like a few days before, they shipped me a box with my laptop in it, and they gave me that exact same memory stick.
Oh,
week
wow.
Before I
Oh,
started.
it
They
says
just
5
got
years. I just
boxes
realized.
of-
Yeah, so
boxes.
technically I am also a 5-year veteran of GameStop, even though I
Yeah.
got it before my actual start date. But
I guess I could say I also have one. So we did it. We did it, Blake.
they send you the
That's
socks,
incredible.
too.
I need to check the laptop box that got sent to me. I might have one too.
Oh, mine was full of stuff. I'm wearing
I
socks
just love
they
this
sent me
idea
right now.
that they bought tons and tons of these 1 gig flash drives that they're like, we're going to be giving these away for decades. And just like now it's like, nobody wants these memory sticks anymore. What are we going to do with them?
Also, Ben, the S clearly stands for Spider-Man.
Oh,
Wait.
well, I don't want to tell people that, Marcus. I don't want
Wait.
to tell anybody.
I wouldn't want to tell people that
Hey,
either. That's a weird.
Have I
middle
not
name.
seen Spider-Man and you in the same room? I had to have, right?
That can't be right. Oh, look, here he is today, right here. Hello.
Oh, Spidey's right there.
Just
Okay,
put
All
got
right,
it.
it's all good. It's all good.
Great visual gag for our audio listeners. All right, should we get on with the show?
We should
What time is
answer a question or two.
Let's do it.
This is the email section, like we said, where you can write in podcastgameinformer.com, just in case you forgot. First, or should I say second, email. TK from Texas writes in. He says, "Hello, GI crew. Extra Life is the one highlight of my year." I'm like, wow, that's quite a highlight. He said, "After Reiner's recent mention of what y'all are working for this year, I'm even more excited. I was wondering when we might see more information about this event. I also had more specific questions about Extra Life. Since 2020 has been a crazy year with serious implications for a lot of people, between, he lists off some of the bad things that are happening. Is it possible that you could add options for where donations go? So if we do more donations, because in the past we've done Gillette Children's Specialty Healthcare in Minnesota. Anyway, point being, November 7th, we're doing Extra Life. We're teaming up with MinMax, Ben Hansen, and the crew over there. They're excited to join us. And then as far as what the plan is, Alex, I think you kind of know better than I do. What's the story with Extra Life this year?
Yeah. So as TK alluded to, this year is far from normal. As far as I know, it is still benefiting Gillette's Children's Fund. I don't think we're going to differentiate donations. I totally understand the want to help as many people as we can, but right now, we have a very good relationship with them, and we want to continue to support them. So getting that out of the way, we are going to be, if you watched our charity stream earlier this year for Black Lives Matter, we did a a thing where we treated it like a replay episode, basically, where I just brought people in on Discord and we played games together, and it was really fun. And that's kind of what we're going to do this time as well. A lot of people still just because we're all tired of COVID. We're trying to be respectful of social distancing, we're going to put on a good show for you guys. I've been working with Hanson, Leo, and the fine folks here at GI, and we've come up with a lot of fun segments. I won't say who, but we're looking to try to get some people in the industry to show up for a couple of those segments that I'm really excited for. And it's different. This year is different, and we're aware of that, but we're also going to try to have some fun with it. And I think we have some stuff planned that will be fun for the community. We're doing the donations will be, the auctions will be a little different this year. The Andy McNamara treasure trove has been picked over from the year before, but we're still working out exactly what gifts we're giving out. But I'm trying to think if there's anything else. We're going to do it. It's going to be a little different this year. It's going to be split into 3 chunks just from a technical perspective. So we're working out who's hosting when, but I will host the GI section, or at least the internet side of it. So you'll be seeing my screen then. Hanson will host the stream for an 8-hour chunk. I'll host it for an 8-hour chunk, and then Leo will host for an 8-hour chunk. Who will be hosting segments we'll be figuring out, but that's kind of what we know at this point. Do you guys have any other questions? Did I cover everything you think?
No, it sounds exciting, and I just encourage everybody to check it out. On our website, GameInformer.com, we will be having a story going up soon about where you can donate and where you can go to join our team, which is the other thing, that you can actually join our team. You can stream alongside with us, try to raise money as well, which is super fun. It's always just a good time, good goofy time. And this year it'll be a little bit different because a lot of us are going to be, separated by distance, but it's a good way to come together and raise money. And then on the money front, I will just say, Extra Life handles a lot of those donations. They do a lot of the legwork there, which is fantastic.
Yep. And
we never touch that money, is my point. So it's not super easy to divide the money, I guess, where I was going with that, because we don't touch it. And actually, that's good, because that's kind of like a security thing. Because we're super greedy and we would steal that money, is what I'm trying to say. It's just kind of nice because you don't have to worry about where the money's going. You know what's actually going to go where it's going to go.
And it is a 501c3, so it's tax deductible if you are concerned about that.
There you go. Even better.
There you go. Perfect.
We have some game codes to give away if you're donating too. Just saying. Just saying.
That's right. A lot of game codes.
Yeah.
So check it out. November 7th, which I believe I said already. But great. Next email. Esteban from Chile writes in, and they say, we've seen a lot of companies investing in different VR headsets in recent years, and I've seen several promising games released. While I do enjoy seeing the new technology, I'm not sure what exactly we're hoping to achieve with VR. Assuming that we had the perfect version of VR, what extra features would these games have that are not present in non-VR games? Are there any experiences that you think would only be possible in VR?
Ben,
Blake, yes, I think you're eager.
Quite simple. With VR, we have, of course, sight, hearing. So we're going to add smell.
Both things you don't really deal with in non-VR games.
Exactly. We're going to add smell and taste because we have the thing right on our face. It's going to you at all times. It's going to put out little pheromones to amplify your gaming experience, depending on what you're playing. That could be good. Could be very bad.
Can you swap those out, the scents out, or are they predetermined based on the game? So could I swap in a vanilla?
Predetermined. Let me tell you, you're not going to want to be playing Mario games in the future. Smell-o-vision. It's going to be real bad. No, I was actually
saying Mario smells?
Yeah, have you seen him? Have you seen the characters in that world? There's all kinds of stenches coming off those bros. I was thinking about this the other day and actually wishing smell-o-vision had taken off. So when I saw this question, I thought it was a good time to come out as a strong supporter of smell-o-vision. The cultural reevaluation is now. Other than that, I don't know. Like better eye tracking, probably.
That'd be all right.
Maybe better room scale VR. Stuff like that.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I just want this is an ultra specific thing to just me and a certain sect of people, but this is what I dream of every time new VR or AR for that matter gets announced. Somebody make damn Yu-Gi-Oh holograms. That's all I want.
That's it. That's the answer.
That's all I want. I don't care if it's inside of a headset. I don't care if it's outside of a headset, like an AR. Somebody figured it out. I want to be able to put the headset on and put a dorky little thing on my arm and then draw cards and put it on my wrist and monsters show up in front of me. That's all I want.
Well, you can do everything except that last thing right now.
Well, no, I want to. How is there not been a VR Yu-Gi-Oh game?
There's a mod, actually.
Oh my god!
Yes, we could duel, Alex. You could be Kaiba and I could be Yugi.
Duel.
Yes, because I'm pure of heart and you're rich and.
Wait, what? Marcus, I'm sorry for the first impression I've given you.
Look at that giant statue behind you in your living room. You're telling me you're not rich?
Look at that nice shirt.
I know. When I saw you, I was like, "What a Kaiba this guy is."
Can I say the other night I wanted to show off my cool new job, and so I pulled up me on the Game Informer show to show my significant other, and she saw Alex sitting there, and she was like, "Do all video game journalists just have crazy collectibles in their room?"
like that is.
I'd be like, "Yeah, man, he's committed to it. It's wild."
I thought she was going to mistake you for him for you. Which would have been a really good story.
He looks so great.
Why would you say that, Ben? That's not very funny.
Yeah. That's a good point, though. I wonder how many people just assume that that's just Alex's house.
This is my roommate, actually, and he doesn't pay rent. He won't leave. It's a whole thing.
He doesn't move either, which is very troubling.
I'm on camera. Can you please? Thank you. Anywho.
For our audio listeners who probably don't care at this point and have already shut this podcast off, Alex is recording from the GI offices again, and so he has a giant Dark Souls statue behind him.
You will be familiar with it.
Creepily watching us.
Much like Seto Kaiba would do.
Exactly. He has statues in his house, I think, in his mansion. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I want. Yu-Gi-Oh! Make it happen, guys. Come on.
That's the only
I can't think of a better answer.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's move on because this is done.
And smell it, but
perfect. All right. Tommy from somewhere online writes in. He says, "I just want to say, first of all, the new hires are doing a great job. Alex is still my favorite. I don't know which Alex he's talking about now, but
I think we all know.
Congrats, Alex.
I think we all know. Thank you."
Van Aken puts one video out and he's everyone's favorite all of a sudden.
That's
how it
right.
works. I'm sorry.
Hey.
Second of all, I emailed this question in a few years ago, but it didn't get picked. All right. If it didn't get picked a few years ago, I'm willing to let it recirculate. With Reiner constantly teasing super replays, my appetite is whet. WHET. And some of my favorite super replays are those in which someone who has knowledge and passion about the game is the one on the sticks. With that in mind, if each of you had to pick a game to be your pick for super replay and that you played, what game would you pick? I'll start by saying that if it were up to me and I was picking, I would actually choose not to be the one playing, because being the one playing is kind of hard work. It's hard to think of things to say while playing a video game. Apparently, just ask anybody in my life who's ever tried to talk to me while I'm playing a game. But if I had to pick a game that I was super knowledgeable, maybe something just fun and light, like Metal Gear Solid or something. I will say that I did pick Conker's Bad Fur Day, and I did play the super replay of that one back in the day. So I've already maybe done this choice once.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts?
This would be a pretty quick super replay, but it would probably be Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Just because that's my favorite Sonic game. I think it's the best of the series, personally. And it's probably my favorite game of all time. I've beaten that thing a good 40, 50 times. I've sped run it, I guess. So that would be an easy one in terms of just being able to kind of go on autopilot and just talk.
Interesting.
Yeah. and you can get it done in like an hour. Like that's my best time is that I beat that game while getting all the Chaos Emeralds and Supersonic in under 40 minutes. That's my best run through it.
Dang.
You, my friend, just volunteered yourself for a super replay segment.
Hey, there it is.
I do like those super replays you can get done in like one go.
Yeah, like we did Portal for that. That was fun. Portal's a good time. I'm Van Aken. How about you?
I think it would either be Halo or Splinter Cell Chaos Theory. I could probably do this pretty well on a super replay. Would be fun would to be like an old RTS or something like Age of Empires, although the scenarios can be very long, or like Warcraft Tides of Darkness. I don't know. I'd probably go with like Splinter Cell probably.
Be a good one.
Have you played those old Warcraft games recently?
I went back
Hard to go
probably
back
a
to.
year or two ago and played through Warcraft 2 a little bit, not much, but yeah, it's a little rough these days.
Yeah,
For sure.
definitely.
Yeah.
Great. Next email, Jake from the Big VT. Anybody know what that is?
Vermont. I don't know.
The big one?
The big one.
All right.
The big Vermont.
Jake says, I was looking through your list of staff and I noticed Jason Guisao, an associate editor who I'd never heard of. Why isn't he ever on the podcast? That's a great question, Jake. Turns out he was on the podcast once. I don't know. I want to say a month ago when he first joined. Part of the reason he's not on very much is one, he's new. He's only been with us maybe, month and a half?
Something like that.
And two, he's part-time. His schedule's a little bit different than everybody else's, and he doesn't normally work when we record. That said, I do want to get him on more, just like I'm trying to get everybody on a little bit more. So everybody's schedule is different. It's hard to get some people on. That's why you don't hear from Reiner a ton, or Joe and Miller haven't been on a ton. They're just kind of busier, and Jason's schedule is different. But thanks for reaching out. We'll definitely try to get him on more. Great. Next email. Jose from Manila writes in, hello, GI crew. Taking FOMO out of the equation, do you think that you would be able to live off of all the games you purchased and own right now? Or do you think that you would get bored of them over time? I love this question, and I have thought about it a lot.
I have an absurdly large backlog. So
Yeah, same here. Just the games I own on Steam just is absurd. And plus the games, like occasionally I'll get an itch to play something that I've already played or already own. Like I went through the Uncharted games last year, had a blast just going back through old games that I like. I think I could probably, like if I really didn't need to, I don't think I would ever need to buy another game again. I don't think I would ever get bored. Now that said, it'd be hard not to want to buy the new hotness, right? Like when the new God of War comes out, I'm going to want to play it.
Of course.
now, when you say buy new games, does that exclude stuff like Game Pass, or it's technically I'm just getting it?
I was just thinking about that. I think for the sanctity of this argument, just no new games ever.
There's no new games whatsoever. Oh, okay.
I think the spirit of the email says no.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd be pretty good. I don't replay games very often. But I have, like you, Ben, between consoles and Steam and even stuff on like old consoles that are just on those hard drives that I haven't gotten to. I think I could play all of those once and not replay anything and probably be pretty good.
Sure.
Yeah, same here. Sorry, go ahead, Blake.
No, by all means.
I feel like I have so many big games that I never got to, or just kind of got my feet wet, like Witcher 3. There's so much content left in that sort of game. If we're talking like ongoing game, like could I play World of Warcraft up to its current state? Yeah,
You bought it. We'll allow that, I think.
Okay.
I mean, if you already own it. Yeah, I guess that's a
yeah.
tricky thing because you need a subscription to make that work. But
Yeah.
we can
Hey, I
pretend.
just bought a big one of those 90 month
Oh, there you go.
subscription cards. There you go. But like those sorts of games would be pretty easy to kind of stay entertained for, I feel like, honestly, like years. And then even going back to like old 90s, early 2000s, like tycoon games like Roller Coaster Tycoon, The Sims. There's so much of those like games that rely on just your creativity and like building out what you want to build in these sandboxes, I feel like there's a lot of hours you could sink into those experiences. So I think I would be okay. And I'm right there with everybody else with the countless Steam purchases. So
Yeah, I think I'm kind of with Alex here, but I don't have a big Steam library or collection of games, but I mean, I have a solid amount of games between like Game Pass, the physical ones I own, or PS Plus games I got over the years. But I also go long stretches without playing games. Like I'll spend a month not really playing anything, especially anything new. You know, I might check in on if I'm playing like Call of Duty. Of course, I'm still playing that. But I feel like I could pace that out, you know? And I got plenty of RPGs or just long games like Red Dead 2. I could make it happen. You know, I'm not playing every day as it is. I think I could do it.
And that's a great point about multiplayer games. Like, how many hours have we sunk into those? Like hundreds on one game. So that's a good point.
And if we knew we weren't getting anything new, we'd be those guys. It would be that news story of us keeping that specific server alive for 15 years after. Because do not turn this off, otherwise we're not going to have anything to play after this.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'd be the world's greatest line writer player for sure.
Do you guys ever face the nerdy existential dread of like looking at your massive backlog and like, I'm probably going to die before I play half of these?
Yeah.
Like I paid money for this thing and I don't think I'm going to play this ever.
I mean, it doesn't I think about it. It doesn't stress me out though. Cause I'm like, whatever, I'll play what I want to play. But I have thought about that.
I usually
dying stresses me out. Thanks for bringing it up, Marcus.
Yeah. Sorry guys. We die eventually, apparently.
Oh,
no. We haven't actually.
I usually only
the ultimate spoiler.
Blake, you don't get to talk. I'm sorry.
Clearly. Let's please ruminate on death a little more on this fun video game podcast. I feel like I only play like one game at a time, so I don't know if I have much of a backlog. I mean, there's lots of games I don't finish, but like, I don't know. I feel like that also may be what bites me in the end of playing my games forever is there's a limited amount because I don't have that backlog, you know?
Sure.
And now I'm so worried about
having a backlog
that I think we should talk about that a little longer.
Where do we go after?
You're like Dan Tack. I feel like Dan Tack isn't his thing is that he doesn't have a backlog, so he would be like he'd be screwed if he was in that situation.
Yeah. I feel like my backlog right now is just Kentucky Route Zero, and it's because people keep tagging me in my Discord group, telling me to play it, and I'm like, I guess that counts. But yeah, I'm with Dan on this one.
I think just to deconstruct Dan's thoughts a little bit, I think he probably has a backlog. Like if he finishes the game he's playing, he's probably like a game out there. He's gonna I'm gonna go find that game I've been meaning to play. He just doesn't believe in like organizing this list of games that I need to tackle.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, and in some ways that's a better way to live. So you're not just like stressed out all the time.
Yeah.
And like thinking like, oh, I got to get to this game. So I got to beat this game. Like in some ways having a quote unquote, like a formalized backlog of games that you want to tackle can be, I don't know, stressful.
Yeah. He's not thinking about dying
in a dumb way. That's his problem. He's not thinking about dying enough. He's not thinking about the limited time he has here on Earth.
I feel like I have a backlog of books, a book log, if you will, and that gives me lots of anxiety because I'm too busy playing these games instead of reading these books. But that's one that like piles up, and I walk in my office or my room wherever I have, I see the books, and I'm like, oh, damn it. So,
yeah,
perfect.
There it is.
Well, speaking of video games, Andrew from Riverside, California writes in. She says, first off, you're doing a great job. I just like that opening line for some reason. Because out of context, it could be just really snarky. I don't know why that makes me laugh.
You're doing a great job.
Yeah, and they probably don't mean it as sarcastic as that or whatever.
They haven't seen this segment of the podcast yet either.
Yeah, well, yeah. Their opinion could change. This is still my second favorite podcast. I'm sorry, but Hardcore History gets bonus points for being so educational. Even if I don't listen to them all. I don't know. Also, we're educational.
Yeah, we could be educational.
We inform you about all these great games.
We inform.
Yeah, come on. All right. Hardcore History is a great podcast. But also, they only release podcasts once every like 3 months. Anyway. Andrew says, I think Dan was onto something when he was asking about defining required reading just a bit. Do you guys remember required reading? This is a segment of the show. We don't do it every week, but we ask you guys to write in and tell us what games you think should be required reading for, anybody who likes games. So the first inductee was Chrono Trigger. We think this is a game that is good and required, quote unquote, required to read. If you had a backlist, this game should be on it if you haven't played it before. So anyway, Andrew says, I think the Kingdom Hearts suggestion is a good example. Required reading means more than is just people's favorite games. These games should be ones that exemplify an important concept done well, or one that was first to do something important, which I totally agree, Andrew. I think that's a good point. Well said. That being said, well, when you label something as required reading, this is still Andrew speaking, you have to ask the question, what is to be learned from this? And maybe even what class would this be for? So Andrew doesn't necessarily have a required reading game for us to explore, but this question is interesting where he says he's suggesting a couple of topics. And if you were to teach a class on game or game design, and this was the topic, which games would you assign people to play or read or whatever for the topic? So the topics they included were storytelling, music and sound design, level and map design, open world design, multiplayer design. So we don't necessarily have to go through that full list, but I think it'd be fun to take each one and offer some examples of here's the best example video games have for storytelling. So Andrew's example was he lifted up BioShock for storytelling and Left 4 Dead for sound design. But what do you guys think? Let's start with storytelling.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, why isn't Kingdom Hearts the answer for all of these? I guess I'm confused. Especially
that's because Kingdom Hearts isn't fun.
I'm sorry that you don't like stories of friendship and hope and dreams, Ben.
Nope.
Kingdom Hearts is more fun to hate, honestly, than it is to play.
I know.
As someone that likes Kingdom Hearts, that is true.
Yeah. I mean,
back to the question at hand, though.
Yeah.
Let's say you guys were doing a class on storytelling in video games. What games would you assign? You're going to the bookstore in your college, you open the door, you walk in where all the books are, and suddenly you see a bunch of video games, which honestly, that would be an amazing experience.
it would be.
Will it cause an argument if I say Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days?
If you back it up, probably not.
Sure.
Well, sure.
I haven't played it.
I think it'll just cause a lot of confusion.
It's one of the best games of the last 10 years, hands down. It's fantastic.
Oh.
That game's camera system, which I know we're talking about story though, is a good example of camera and framing as a character to amplify narrative in a game. That game is all about the lengths that people are willing to go to both escape themselves and the violence that man can put himself through, and the live leak nature of that camera. The early pre-YouTube does a lot to make that game hard to look at, which video games are obsessed with wanting you to look at them at all times, and that game dares you to turn away and not look at it. And that game is all about repugnant, repulsive men. You're not supposed to like Kane and or Lynch. So the camera does a lot of heavy lifting on making that story resonate.
How do you think they smell, Blake? In your smell-o-vision game, how do they smell?
Get ready to bleep this one, Alex. Obviously. I mean, terrible. But I genuinely think the moment-to-moment story of that game, not the greatest thing in the world. It's like a dollar store Irvine Welsh or something. But the things that thing tried to do to amplify its own themes and the way it carried that out through its camera work is incredible. I genuinely think that's one of the best games of the 2010s.
And I love that you brought that up as your example, because that's what classes are good for, right? Is they bring up something this is a super interesting example. It's not necessarily the best game, period. It's something that just did something super interesting in that space, which is what I would get exciting. It's what I would get excited about if I were running a class on narrative design. I would want to point something up of this isn't an amazing story like The Last of Us, for example. The Last of Us is I'm saying as a counterexample, is a good story, but it's very like cinematically told, right? So maybe not. You could maybe have that on your class, but I think the more interesting game to have on your syllabus would be something like Gone Home.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this is telling a story in a way that you can only tell a story in a video game. You can't do a narrative like that in a book or a movie or something. Another example I thought of was Her Story, which I think is a really good example of like detective game story where you're searching and trying to solve this mystery, but you are doing all the searching and you basically build your narrative, kind of your own narrative as you play the game. So those would be like my two examples.
Yeah, it's like using unique framing to tell a story that other media can't. And it feels like video games rarely want to do that. They never want you to think about how something's quote unquote shot or framed within its narrative. So I think those two examples are great too.
Ben brought up Gone Home, and it sparked something in my brain, like another walking sim, What Remains of Edith Finch, and how
for sure
this story is just brilliantly told through these vignettes of all of these different perspectives and characters that occupy this family, and specifically this house that the player is occupying and exploring. And it really, it does an incredible job of like, just kind of like setting up little mysteries along the way and then revealing truths to the player through like, again, really interesting perspectives and mini games. It's only a thing that a video game can do. So
yeah,
I thought of like mobile stuff. Like there's a game called Bury Me, My Love that I thought was really cool. Where it's a mobile game. I think it's on other things, but I think you should play it on mobile because the whole premise is that you're playing it as a series of text messages to
that's cool.
Someone. I can't remember. It's been a while if it's like a family member or a friend, but they are trying to travel through like a kind of war-torn Middle East. And so you're kind of keeping tabs on them and they're updating you about their journey. And it's told kind of in real time where they'll be like, all right, I'm going to get on this truck now. I'll text you later. And then like hours will go by and you'll get a text on your phone and it'll be her.
That's awesome. Wow.
It's a very effective storytelling technique that feels like you're talking to a real person and and you freak out when they're like, oh, something's going on. I'll text you later. And you're like, what? And you're like, they haven't texted
you. You're waiting in real time, waiting.
Yeah, they're like, oh,
wow.
like shots were fired. I gotta go. And you're like, what's happening?
Does it pop up?
And you're basically telling them like what to do.
You get choices how you want to respond. Yeah, or you can type stuff.
Does this send you like notifications on like your home screen like a normal text would?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
crazy.
That's awesome.
It's on other platforms like Switch, but I think you should play it on mobile, which is where it originally came out.
What happens if you turn off notifications?
Well, I think you're just a monster at that point.
Mute.
Did they die?
I'm tired of hearing from you. And there's another really cool mobile game called. Say.
No, I was just going to say that is a really cool game. And one of the things that probably isn't even worth mentioning, but I already started talking, is just the fact that the art in this game, it's all like hand drawn and it's good art. But the fact that it's supposed to simulate texting with a real person. I kind of wish they'd taken a photo of an actress or something and use that to make it feel like I'm actually talking with a person rather than this cartoon. But anyway, it's still a good game and totally worth checking out, especially in our class on narrative.
Yeah. Do it or you fail.
For sure. I do feel like, especially in the early days of classes, you need an example of a strong candidate that like kind of establishes what you guys are going to work on. And because I think what we've talked about is very much very important to play, but I think you do need that classical sense of narrative and games that do that exceptionally well. And I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is one of the greatest examples in games of a down-to-earth redemption arc, and how the medium can be used to show off. Like, I think Arthur Morgan's story is, and this is how I played it, but I chose the good side of it. And I think it is absolutely one of the most human, regretful, somber stories we have in games. And especially if you got to the nun scene at the train station, that will forever be one of my favorite scenes of all time. Because, video games come from this culture, started in this culture of Duke Nukem and Doomslayer, of toxic masculinity, power fantasy, and to have a character like Arthur Morgan, very much kind of stereotypical at the start of that to almost break down and express fear of death, fear of regret that is such a powerful moment. And I think something that you would need to kick like a class off with that. Like, this is how storytelling is done in a more conventional way.
Yeah, I think there's something to say too about that game's use of subtlety, which rarely video games are ever subtle, and that game makes rarely movies or TV shows are ever subtle in their storytelling, and like I guess TLDR, like its use of subtlety is some of the biggest strengths of that game, and I wish more games would be that way.
For sure.
Yeah. Didn't feel real.
Cool.
Yeah.
Felt like a video game.
Yeah.
I felt like I was playing my PS4 while I was playing it, which kind of took me out of the moment.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'll say. I don't know if we need to go down the list of every class we would teach, but maybe one more would be interesting. Is there one that stuck out to you, like level and map design or multiplayer design? He has music and sound design on here. I think level and map design sounds interesting.
Yeah.
To create a syllabus around.
I feel like... Go ahead, Blake. Go ahead.
Really quick. There's, I think, a good piece in Heterotopias about the way the Tony Hawk games integrate real-world architecture as playgrounds. And I'm not going to be able to say anything as intelligent as what was written in that Heterotopia zine, so go seek that out. But that stuff is really cool. I would love to... I think, like, a new Tony Hawk would be interesting to see how they incorporate all that stuff. Because in the remake, you're still seeing the kind of, like, PS1 N64 version of that.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see. I guess, Skater XL kind of does that, but that's more of a sim than an arcade game. So that.
I think there's a lot of good stuff written out there too about Super Mario's level design, the original Super Mario, and how, it just feels so natural today, because I think a lot of the design elements are just baked into our culture at this point. We understand, like, you run left or right, you jump on people's heads, you do this, but there was no reason for us to assume that if you jumped on an enemy's head, they would die back when that game first came out. So the fact that they designed those blocks when that first Goomba rolls in, like you would probably hit those blocks and then land on him, and then you would find out that he died, or the fact that you hit the block and the one up, it's not a one up, sorry, it's a big mushroom rolls down, and then it's hard to like jump over that thing. And so you understand that, like, oh, these are good things for me to pick up, because you don't know, like when you hit it for the first time, the thing that pops out of it could be a bad thing. Yeah, for all you know, if you're looking at it through eyes of like, I've never played a video game before. So I think there's something there. And I think Mario 64 too, even though that's very dated, just how to make a game in 3D space and create these worlds that have multiple tasks within them that you're running after is another one that might be worth checking out.
I think even like playing off of your 2D Mario World 1-1 reference, like a more modern example that I think takes that formula and does well with it is Celeste from 2018. And they have very similar a level layout, at least in the intro, about, there are only certain ways that you can progress where you have to use your base mechanics to move forward. If you don't jump early on, it puts you in a little pit that you have to figure out, okay, I've got to press one of these buttons to get out of here. And so it definitely uses that Mario DNA and then takes that to the various themes that kind of make up their levels. And then one more example, I feel like and very recent this year, Valorant has some great map design. And when you pair it with like the fact that there's only one objective in that game, it's attack and defend, you're planting bombs, the way that influences every single part of that game's design, from the character designs and their abilities to the map design itself, it is a great game in that regard. So I'd recommend people to check that out.
Cool. Marcus, do you have anything?
I was just gonna real quick say, going off the Mario example, like just the original Zelda, in terms of like making a world and dropping players into it and designing it in a way where you just can kind of tell them, figure it out, and just trusting that they can figure out where they need to go, how to do it. I think there's an art to that very few games capture. I think Nintendo kind of recaptured it with Breath of the Wild. I've always considered that game should pretty much just be that first game but modernized. Like I can't. It's hard to articulate because I am not a brilliant Nintendo designer, but there is a secret sauce there of like how do you design an open world and just let players do what they want, but still find ways to, like not have them break the world, but also letting them do it and figuring out things on their own. I don't know, but there's a mastery there that I think it's worth studying.
For sure.
Yeah. It blew my mind when Andy described Zelda as an open world game a few years ago. I remember talking to him and I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Somebody should make you editor in chief. Because I always thought of like open worlds as like something we invented in the 90s, like the late 90s, that was popularized with GTA. But the fact that it goes way back further than that is shows my ignorance, I guess, a little bit. But also it's just it kind of shows that like I never thought of that game as an open world game when I played it, but it totally is.
Yeah, sure.
I won't lament the point. We'll get going. Ori and the Will-O-Wisps is probably the closest thing we have to a perfect Metroidvania.
It's so good.
That's all I need to add.
It's
the level
good.
design in that is second to none, and that Moon Studios is incredible.
And I always get them confused. Will-O-Wisps is the one that came out this year.
Correct. I think it took everything that first Ori did, stripped out some of the more frustrating elements, like the save structure, but didn't make it forgiving. I think it made it a bit more palatable. And there are a few games out there that I feel like control as well that demand so much of you in boss fights, in getting to those secret areas. And I just Ori is such a special game, and I think more people should play it.
Do you think that game's going to come up in our Game of the Year discussions?
I think I don't want to tip my hat too much. It is I'm grappling with where that's landing on my list, and I'm very much considering it for number one spot for me personally. Just because I don't.
It's also very high on my list. I'll just say that.
There we go.
It is on
Tip
mine
of the
too.
hat.
So the three of us can bring it up together.
There we go.
Great. Multi-headed Hydra. Cool. I think that does it for emails then. There was a great look into game design and kind of a primer for what we're looking for with required reading. We've definitely gotten several submissions. Sorry we haven't read them all out on the podcast, but I felt it maybe was kind of helpful to actually kind of talk about like what we're looking for here. We want something that's definitely not necessarily your favorite game, right? And I definitely have a lot of my favorite games, like, I don't know, Uncharted 4, I'll just throw that out there, that even though I love that game a lot, I don't know that it's required reading necessarily. So just kind of, it's not about your favorite games, it's about like what games are like monuments in the gaming landscape that just did something so well that you really should check them out. So that's what I'll say about that. If you want to send in a required reading candidate, please do that at GameInformer.com. At podcast@GameInformer.com, and make sure you explain why you think it's required reading. We'll also take character submissions for their ultimate character rankings, or just any old question. We'll take questions too. We love those. Games too.
Beautiful.
Great. That brings us to our last segment of the show. Get wrecked. You guys ready to get wrecked? Marcus, you want to wreck anything?
Get wrecked. I mentioned it earlier, but my Watch Dogs Legion review. It's my first review for the site, and it's one of the biggest games of the year, and I really liked it. So if you want, I guess, more in-depth thoughts on it, give that a look.
Great
Perfect.
job. Great read. I read it this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Alex Stadnick?
I am trying. I would say take a look at going off what we talked about earlier. We did a new gameplay today for Astro's Playroom, PS5 game that I think is really great, and I think we touched on it in this, but I think that does a better job of showing it, obviously, because it's gameplay. But definitely go check that out. Jeff, Joe, and I had glowing things to say about one of the first looks at PS5 gameplay.
Cool. Alex, Van Halen.
The
whatever
other
your name
one.
is.
Yeah, the other one. Van Helsing for Halloween. Go check out my first video I edited. It's up on the site. It's a behind the scenes interview, exclusive interview that Andrew or Reiner, Ben, and Alex did with Cameron Christian, the game director on Spider-Man Miles Morales, and they kind of dive into the Venom powers, the combat, and like the stealth coming up in the new game. So go check that out. And then don't forget the unboxings that Alex did with Brian Shea are really great. So
Thank you, sir.
yeah.
What about you, Blake?
Check it out. I wrote me a good old fashioned listicle. Maybe it's not a listicle. I don't know.
Ooh.
It's a ordered article of movies to watch. Movie Informer. If you liked certain horror games, I recommended some cool movies. Got some ones in there I didn't know if the GI audience might have seen. Some good revenge dramas. A found footage film. An Exorcist
nice.
film that isn't the first one, but is one of the best ones. So
Sassy.
check that out.
Okay.
Should be up. Hopefully. We're trying to get it through edits.
Oh, I can't wait to check it out. By the way, the word listicle, can we just do away with that word? It's not a great word, right?
Yeah.
Be
Why don't
gone.
you just call it list?
Yeah.
I like listicle.
That's a good
That
point.
sounds
Yeah,
like
that's a word.
It's got good mouthfeel.
Icicle's fine. Listicle, I think of another ickle every time somebody says that. Is a problem.
I
That and
think it's
Metroidvania, two words I want to do away with in the gamer vernacular.
Really quick to focus on this. I like the feeling of saying the tickle of listicle
Okay.
and other words. I think it's got a good rhythm to it. So I'm pro
Fair.
listicle.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, to get wrecked a little bit, please go visit our Extra Life page and donate and come watch us play. So with that said, thanks for watching or listening to this episode of the show. Please like and subscribe, or subscribe to our magazine. Leave us a review, whatever. We'll be back next week with another episode. Until then, game on. Bye.